The show can't start until we crack open a bottle of Revelton. Whether it's their crisp, clean vodka, the bold spice of their rye whiskey, the rich smoothness of bourbon, or the original honey whiskey that started it all, every pour is a taste of craft and passion straight from the heart of Iowa. So pour yourself a drink, settle in, and get ready to relax, laugh, and enjoy the show.
Hey, it's Andrew Downs. I'm proud to support Three Beards Media, and I would love to work with you. If you need merchandise for your company, organization, band, softball team, whatever, I can help. From name brand apparel to promotional items, large orders or small, online stores, and more, I can help your brand stand out. AKC Marketing is local, based in Johnston, and we are an employee-owned business, so our costs are low and our turnaround times are fast. But most importantly, we give you personal service to make sure you get exactly what you're looking for. Email me at andrew@akcmarketing.com or find me on social media and let's make some cool stuff together. Now sit back and enjoy this Three Beards Media podcast.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of what we are calling Barber's Best Bets. Excited to be doing this with all of you. Just want to jump right into it and say I'm by no means professional. Just starting out my first ever episode, trying to give out some picks here, hopefully give out some winners to all of you. I did give out a few picks on the Hawk's Eye View, and I want to be transparent and track those. And we're going to talk college football and NFL mostly on this podcast. But the picks that I gave out on Hawk's Eye View, Wisconsin plus 21.5, got smoked by Alabama in Tuscaloosa. Could have seen that coming. Never again, Wisconsin. Or maybe. We'll see. Purdue plus 20.5, they cover. West Virginia plus 7.5, they cover. They win outright. So 2-1 week there in college football. NFL, I took the Browns on a flyer plus 11.5. Thought it was a lot of points. They laid an absolute egg, got throttled by the Baltimore Ravens, who were out for revenge after that bad week 1 loss to the Buffalo Bills. I went big on a Jamar Chase anytime TD and a Jamar Chase first touchdown of the ball game. Jamar Chase did get the anytime touchdown. He did not get the first touchdown. So a 1-2 week there, college football or in NFL, 4-4 there. And then I did go with Canelo money line in the big Canelo Crawford fight. Crawford came out and absolutely pieced Canelo up. So I took a loss there. We went 4-5 on the weekend on the picks that I gave on the Hawk's Eye View. Before we get into the picks, I wanted to take a little bit of time to just educate you all on some things that I've learned in my forays into the sports betting world and just give you maybe some general best practices. You don't have to follow these things to a T. I'm not giving out financial advice here. But just want to give you some good reminders or maybe teach you something that you've never heard before. First of all, you'll hear people talk about bankrolls. What is that? Well, it's simply just an amount that you set as your bankroll. Let's just use $100 as an example. So if you start out with $100 and start following my bets or any bets out there, you would use a $100 bankroll. Then you'll frequently hear people talk about units. Well, a unit kind of is what you make it, but you need to be consistent in whatever unit it is that you're betting. Usually that's somewhere from 1% to 3%. So in my $100 example, that's a $1 to $3 bet. Depends on how conservative or aggressive you want to be when you're betting in units. Now, I'm not going to tell you unit sizing on the show. Some other shows do that. I'm just going to give my picks. Leave it up to you whether you want to make those 1 unit, 2 unit, 3 unit, 4 unit. For myself, I usually don't go much higher than 5 units in any one play. 1 unit's generally where I land, sometimes 2, 3. So just want to talk to you about being consistent and always never bet any more than what you can afford. Along with that, you have some bad days, right? We went 500 this weekend. It wasn't the best weekend of all time. But you have some bad days. You have some bad losses. Don't try to chase those losses and make it all up at once by taking bigger risks. Generally, when you do that, you just find yourself in a bigger hole. So have a budget, be consistent, stick to it. Don't follow your impulses. Then I would also advise, we'll talk about the lines. And it's really great that we're doing this show on a Tuesday because right now is a good time to get in and get your college football and your NFL bets in before the weekend. This is when kind of the sharper players are putting their bets in. A lot of them have already put their bets in by Monday. But putting your bets in on Tuesday for the Saturday and the Sunday slate of games is how you kind of beat the lines moving on you. So we'll talk about some lines that are 6.5 points. And those lines can shift to 7.5 or 8.5 real quick. And then you're looking at 2 scores in these football games rather than 1 touchdown. That makes a big difference over time. So always shop for the best lines. I advocate using multiple sports books, FanDuel, DraftKings, Fanatics, Bet365, Circa, wherever you want to look. You can go look and find all the best lines. It's good to shop around because sometimes you can get a point or half a point of difference there, and that's going to make a lot of difference in the long run. So just wanted to get out in front there and give you kind of some behind the scenes, inside baseball, if you will. You do a little bit of research too. Try not to get paralyzed by the amount of research that you do, but it's good to look at things like some more advanced metrics, kind of how teams are performing recently, head-to-head records. It's early in the season, so we don't have a lot of data points to go off of for both of these sports. So we'll kind of build that week over week as we get some more data. But it's always good to make data-driven decisions when you're betting. Sometimes you can have a little bit of a gut feel too, but it's usually backed up by some sort of data or some sort of fact or maybe like key news like an injury, anything of that sort. So we'll talk about that as kind of those situations arise. There's also good places here throughout the slate where we can kind of fade the public. So you can see on certain betting platforms, you can understand which way the public is leaning. If everybody's jumping in on one place, sometimes it's good to kind of zag when everybody's going one way. It's good to zag the other way. So there are going to be some plays that I have here that might seem like kind of a zag against the general public sentiment for these bets. So with that being said, let's just jump right on into my picks for this weekend. And let's start in college football. I'm going to give you a few more picks. I gave you 3 because it was tagged on the end of the episode of Hawk's Eye View, but I'm going to give you 6 college football picks here and 4 NFL picks before we commence the show. But I'd like to start out with the Clemson Tigers. They had a rough outing this past Saturday. Road loss to Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech's a good team. I was on the Georgia Tech side. This is an excellent buy low spot here at home for Clemson against the Syracuse Orange. They're getting 17. They're getting 17 and a half there. So I like Clemson minus 17 and a half here in a buy low spot. I think this is a bounce back spot for Cade Klubnik and crew. Syracuse is 2-1. They've had some rough outings. They got demolished by Tennessee in week 1. They needed overtime in week 2. I'm not a firm believer in the Syracuse football team. I think Clemson has been battle tested. They played tight with LSU, who's a top 10 team, and they played on the road in a tough Georgia Tech environment and lost. But they were putting it together in that second half, just couldn't pull through in the end. I think I look for them to get some momentum here at home, and they got to rip through the rest of this ACC slate if their dreams of making it to the ACC championship and making it to the college football playoff are going to remain alive. I project them to rip right through the Syracuse Orange this weekend. My next pick, TCU SMU. This game is projected to be very high scoring. TCU is a 6.5-point favorite. And to me, this line feels low, lower than where it should be. And I say that because this SMU team, who I think is going to be on the running with Miami, Clemson, Florida State for the ACC title, and who was in the playoffs last year, lost at home to a Baylor team who I think is good, but maybe middle of the road in the Big 12. And I think TCU is a little bit of a step up from Baylor, and it's at home. So I don't want to play the transitive property, but I love the TCU offense. I love Josh Hoover and what he has done in that program. He has really developed. And this is going to be a fun game. This is a rivalry game. There's a little bit of a private school rivalry in Texas going on in this game. But these teams are not known for their defense by any stretch of the imagination. SMU, if you look at the simple rating system on sportsreference.com, I like to look at that. That's one of those advanced metrics. SMU has a negative defensive simple rating, but a positive offensive simple rating. Same thing for TCU. Negative on defense, positive on offense, but more positive for TCU on offense. So a lot of points, high-scoring ball game, may just come down to which team gets the ball last, may just come down to an overtime type situation. That's probably what Vegas is thinking here. Give me TCU minus 6.5. All right, we're going to move to the SEC, former Big 12. Oklahoma's hosting Auburn, and this is Jackson Arnold, a revenge spot for him. He was cast aside from Oklahoma and shipped off to Auburn, and the Auburn Tigers are 3-0. The Oklahoma Sooners are 3-0 as well. John Mateer has thrown for nearly 1,000 yards. He's a Heisman candidate. I think Oklahoma has been a little bit more battle tested here. Again, we have the Baylor factor coming in with Auburn having played Baylor. in week 1, I believe, and they prevailed in that one. A lot of points there. Not your typical SEC defense here from the Auburn Tigers. I think John Montier is going to have his way carving them up. I like the win over Michigan, who I think is a decent team. I am going to roll with what I believe to be the better quarterback. Obviously, Oklahoma thought so too because they have John Montier instead of Jackson Arnold. Oklahoma minus 6.5 right now. But with TCU and Oklahoma, like I talked about in my opening, these lines move up to 7.5, 8.5. That's when I'm shying away from it. I'm all in at the minus 6.5 because we can win by a touchdown. I'm not all in once we get up to that 7.5, 8.5 range. That's kind of the trap range. And you also see that with the minus 2.5, minus 3.5. I like minus 2.5 a little bit more than minus 3.5 in some of these spreads. I talked about the Baylor Bears. Big one this weekend against the Arizona State Sun Devils. And I think that Baylor is a 1.5 point favorite. But I think there's enough value here to where I can take them on the money line. I like Sawyer Robertson. I like the way that Baylor's look. They have that signature win over SMU. They have a close loss against Auburn. They're at home. Arizona State lost to Mississippi State, who's probably the bottom team, maybe one of the worst teams in the SEC. I think Baylor, again, more battle-tested. They've been in these big spots in these big games. They prevailed in that SMU game. I like Sawyer Robertson and the Baylor Bears to prevail here against the Arizona State Sun Devils. That's going to be a big one in the Big 12 race, too. We're staying in the Big 12. A lot of Big 12 picks. There's a lot of points this Saturday, too. If you like points, this is a good Saturday for you. We backed West Virginia last week against the Pittsburgh Panthers in a rivalry game. Just felt like West Virginia is a good buy low spot. But Kansas, their offense, they're on the train. They're rolling. I like Jalen Daniels. I don't really like the two quarterback system that West Virginia has going on. It's a little bit rough at times. It worked against Pitt. I don't think it works on the road against the Kansas Jayhawks, who are a 2-touchdown favorite, nearly minus 13.5. I like Kansas to win this by 2 touchdowns. Give me Kansas minus 13.5. Then we're going to go to a late night game in the Big Ten here. One offense that's very high powered in USC hosting Michigan State, who has a pretty high powered offense themselves. You don't think of them in the same vein as some of the elite offenses, but their offense is right there on par with a team like SMU or TCU or Baylor. Not just maybe a notch below the TCU and Baylor level, but right on par with that SMU level. And their defense is not highly regarded. You think of those D'Antonio teams when you think Michigan State. That's not this Michigan State team. We also know about USC's struggles on defense as well. I don't think that's changed. I don't think that's going to change when you're talking about USC. So give me the over on points here with 2 good offenses going at it, 2 struggling defenses going at it. Also, huge time zone factor here for Michigan State. We'll see how they do traveling west. The game starts at 10 o'clock Central. So that's just a tough situation for the Spartans too. I think that might have them off to a slow start. The USC offense probably get off to a fast start there. Michigan State going to have to throw. The game script is kind of going to be favorable towards that over there. It's also going to be an over that I don't think a lot of people are playing. So those are my official picks. I'll say them all again. 6 picks. Clemson minus 17.5. TCU and Oklahoma minus 6.5. Baylor money line. Kansas minus 13.5. Michigan State, USC over 56.5. I have some leans as well, not official picks here. That's basically what that means. I'm leaning this way, may put in these bets. I like the over in the SMU TCU game because of the offenses there, 64.5 currently. I like the over in Arizona State Baylor over 60.5. Utah minus 3.5 point favorite. I don't like it because it's a minus 3.5. I'd like to see that move down to 2.5, and then I would jump all over Utah minus 2.5. So I'm keeping my eye on that one. And then Maryland is a 9.5 point underdog on the road at Wisconsin, a team that got throttled by Alabama. And I like Malik Washington. I think that he's a decent quarterback, so I'm leaning Maryland plus 9.5 this weekend. All right. Well, I think that's a perfect time to go ahead and just take a break, and I will be back with my NFL bets after the break.
Making great tasting bourbon requires the perfect combination of ingredients, conditions, and time. The longer it rests, the better it tastes. Revelton Distillery's new single barrel bourbon is made from 80% corn, sourced 100% from Iowa farmers. And unlike mass-produced bourbons, each barrel of Revelton's single barrel bourbon is unique, proofed on when it tastes best. As they like to say, it'll be ready when it's ready. And to ensure the highest standards of quality and flavor, owners Rob and Christy Taylor oversee the production and bottling. Every single barrel. Iowa born, Iowa aged, Iowa bottled. Try the new single barrel bourbon from Iowa's own Revelton Distillery. ReveltonDistillery.com.
Gentlemen, let's be honest. Finding the perfect gift for your wife or girlfriend isn't always easy. You want something thoughtful, stylish, and unique. And that's exactly what you'll find at Styled by JJ Boutique. Julia Bradshaw and her team strive to be your go-to boutique for casual, boho, and chic clothing and accessories, helping women elevate their style one piece at a time. Located right here in Johnston, Iowa, Styled by JJ brings trendy, high-quality fashion that boosts confidence without breaking the bank. So, if you're looking for a gift that says, I get you, instead of I tried, head to Styled by JJ Boutique. Because nothing makes her smile like feeling beautiful. Styled by JJ Boutique, where style meets confidence. Visit our Johnston location or shop online at styledbyjjboutique.com.
All right. Welcome back in. Thanks to all of our sponsors. And let's shift to the NFL, where I'm going to jump right in on a Thursday night game, the Dolphins at the Bills. The Bills have a real history of just roughing up the Miami Dolphins in September. Miami is in disaster mode 2 games in. Players only meeting after week 1, blowing a late lead against the Patriots in week 2. Getting shredded, absolutely shredded by Drake May, who I think Drake May has taken a step up and is a better quarterback than he was in his rookie year. Patriots offense taking a step up too, but this is a tall task. Buffalo is an 11.5 point favorite. I back the Browns in a situation like this. I am going the opposite direction this week. I'm riding with Josh Allen and the Bills minus 11.5. Give me the Bills all day long. As we look to Sunday here, I think there's a couple of good values. Specifically, one good value in the way of a team. I like the Niners at home against the Cardinals. Mac Jones showed that he was more than capable. The Cardinals had a tough time closing out the Panthers, who I think are the worst team in the NFC. So I know that the Cardinals are 2-0, but it's a shaky 2-0. I just think the Niners' infrastructure the fact that it's at home. This line opened with Arizona as a favorite, so it's swinging that way. The sharp money, the sharp bettors are swinging that way. So I'm rolling with it too. And you can get the Niners -1.5. I thought about Niners money line here. And you can keep the 1.5, but I think the Niners are more than capable of winning by a field goal here at home. That's what I like in the way of team bets. I like to navigate into the world of prop bets. We haven't talked about prop bets yet. That just means betting on individual players to do certain things like score a touchdown or reach a certain number of yards, or not reach a certain number of yards if you want to take some unders. But I like betting on touchdowns. We bet on a touchdown last week with Jamar Chase. I'm going to bet and give you 2 touchdowns this week. 2 more wide receivers, guys that are very much due for a touchdown. They're getting the volume that suggests that they should have a touchdown by this point in the season through 2 games, but neither of them do. Give me CeeDee Lamb, anytime touchdown, and Mike Evans, anytime touchdown. I like the matchups for both of these guys. The Cowboys are at the Bears. We saw what the Lions did. We saw what Amon-Ra St. Brown did with 3 touchdowns. CeeDee Lamb can certainly find his way to the end zone against the Bears. I like the matchup for the Bucs against the Jets, although the Jets defense is the best part, and he probably will draw Sauce Gardner. So that gives me a little pause there. But the Buccaneers are just in a flow. I think they're going to look to get Mike Evans involved early and often. So give me Mike Evans anytime touchdown in that game against the Jets. I have a couple of leans as well. Again, picks that I didn't want to ride with, but I'm keeping my eye on. I'm monitoring it. Bucks -6.5 by a touchdown at home over the Jets. Chargers -2.5 at home over the Broncos. Everybody loved this Broncos team preseason. They have gotten off to a 1-1 start, and it's an 8-point win over the Titans, and then a loss against the Colts on that leverage play, whatever it was at the end of regulation there. But they're on the road against the Chargers, who have beat the Chiefs and the Raiders. They mashed up on the Raiders on Monday Night Football, and I think the Chargers are primed and in a position early to take over this division. This is a good spot at home for them. I want to back Justin Herbert over Bo Nix. So give me the Chargers -2.5. Lions-Ravens on Sunday Night Football. The over-under is set at 52.5 points. Week 1 Sunday Night Football, I know the Bills and the Ravens went way over. I'm not as confident in Lions-Ravens going way over the total here. Most of the time in primetime, these games end up being on the lower scoring side. There's some nerves there for a primetime game. So I'm leaning towards that Lions-Ravens under 52.5. I think you could see people betting this up even higher, which would be great because I'd be more willing to jump on this at 53.5 or 54.5. So that is where I'm sitting on college football and NFL this weekend. Again, follow my plays if you want to. Follow none of my plays if you want to. I don't care. I'll be keeping track. I'll be tracking my bets for all the season. I wish you all the best. Again, never bet more than what you can afford. And always stay within your means. Stay consistent and keep on winning. Keep on that winning track. So thank you for being there for me and listening to me in week 1 here of the show. And I'll be back throughout the rest of the college football and the NFL season. Hopefully get on a winning streak here right out of the gate. So thank you, as always, to all the fans. Appreciate you all, and hope you have a great night.